Hi, and welcome back to design a set of villain pipes in Fusion 360. We're going to take on session 3 now on designing a bellows for the pipes, and we're going to deal with creating a leather template or a leather cutting template such as the one you see here. We're going to meet a range of new things in this session, one of which is going to be a flat pattern, sheet metal, flanges, and a rule for the flange that sets the thickness of the flat pattern. You mightn't know what any of those things means at the moment, but you will by the time we finish the session. Okay, so we'll start off and we'll go to Bellows, and we will close down the browser. We'll close that file. So here we are. We're looking at File, New Design, and we will file Save As Bellows Leather Cutting Template for YouTube. Make sure it's in the right locations. So we'll have a look at the axes. We're going to show the origin. Hide, hide, leave, hide, 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 hide. So we have the green line, which represents the y-axis, and we're going to construct a plane at angle on that axis. And we're going to make it 16.5. Now 16.5 is half the 33-degree angle which is subtended by the two paddles of the bellows. In other words, that's the angle at which the two paddles take up with one another, or the angle between them. So you'll see why we need an angled plane now in a little while. We're going to create a sketch on that new plane. Now, you might think that that's the origin. So I went back and I showed the real origin, what I call the main origin. So that's the origin we're going to use in this sketch. We're going to completely disregard this one. That's so that we hold the centrality of this sketch once we complete it and we start bringing it to other planes. So if you want to identify which is the main origin, if you show the X, Y, and Z axis, and you can see them going through the main origin. Okay, so we've identified that. We'll create a line. But this line is only going to be here temporarily, and it's going to help us lay out the sketch. So we'll call it line type construction. And we want this to be 50 millimeters. Now, I create this line away from the origin here, because if you put it close to the origin, it can get very hard to find the center point of the line, which is what we want to do, and we want to make it coincident. So constraint coincident. Go hunt the center, shift key, hold the shift key down, find it around here. We found it and it went away. So shift key down, found it. We want it to be coincident with the main origin. I took a pause for a while and restarted Fusion there, and now I'm going to try and find the midpoint of this line and make it coincident with the excuse me, the main origin. So we pick up the coincident main origin, and it worked that time. We're good. Okay, now that we have created that construction line, we restore line type to not be construction, but to actually give us lines. So now we start with our paddle. We create a circle, and that's going to be 120. Yep. And we're going to constrain it horizontally and vertically. That to the origin, and we're going to set the dimension from the origin to the circle center at 170. Now we'll create a 3-point arc starting on the perimeter. And we will now set the radius of that arc, and we took that at 390. That's great. So now let's see what our x's are. We're going to show the x-axis, and we're going to create a mirror of the arc, mirror line, x-axis, and it all appears nicely. So now we're going to operate just up here, and that's quite cluttered. So we will hide dimensions and hide constraints and hide the origin. Don't know how you got there, we don't need them. So we'll create now an actual line at this point. Oh yeah, I forgot to get rid of the construction line. The construction line is gone. New line, and we'll make that 45. So it leaves a little gap there. That gap is very important. We don't need to create another 45 mil line, and we will so I'll just delete that line, and we'll create another 45 mil line. But first thing we'll do is we'll take our start position with reference to that point, and if you just put the cursor on the point and draw it vertically upwards from it, you'll see it's getting a dashed line to show that there's going to be positional link between the 2 points. Click, and we'll now make our 45 mil line, and it's directly above that point there, but not connected to it yet. Now we want to set the distance between those 2 lines. I'm going to pick 2 millimeters. Now the metal I'm going to use to build our flat pattern is steel, which has a thickness of 1.003 millimeters. So when I build that into a 1 millimeter thick plate and this one to a 1 millimeter thick plate, they won't conflict with one another. That would break the flat pattern. Okay, so we now need to connect this line to this line. So we will modify, extend, cursor on the arc, and you can see a little red line telling you how it's going to extend. Click, and it's extended. So you should have ended up with something like this. And we now need to fillet these right angles. And we need to get rid of that arc. Okay, we'll modify fillet. We'll pick a value of 5mm for those two fillets. All good. We'll get rid of that arc. So now we have a continuous line all the way around, no breaks, but also no intersections line to line. And we'll finish the sketch. Go home and have a look at it. And you can see that we have this sketch is at 16.5 degrees to the XY, to the x-axis, to the XY plane as well. Okay, go home. Now we are going to create a sketch on this plane. Just double check. Yes. So we're going to project this drawing here onto this plane. So click on that plane and create a sketch. I'm not going to draw anything. We're just going to create a projection. Project include, project. Now we have to select the geometry we're going to project, and this is where you have to be careful. There are 7 pieces of geometry here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to project that. That's all looking good. Home and finish sketch. Now, what has happened there? I go to front on the view cube and you can see that there's our original sketch, which is that length, and there's the projection of that sketch. That's because we're going to track the shape of the leather, not the shape of the bellows. And the shape of the leather is dictated by the cross section at the middle of the bellows, going from the fat end to the hinged end. And that's going to become our main sketch. So we'll just hide the sketch that we don't want to use. We'll hide the planes. Now we're going to leave the solid tab and we're going to go to the sheet metal tab, which is where the flange tool is to be found. We're going to create flange. That looks good. We've all 7 profiles edges selected. Now we're going to use the symmetric direction because we want it to go in both directions, and check your sheet metal rule. Make sure it's steel, because it can be any of those, but if you go with stainless steel or aluminium, you will break the flange, or you break the unfold. Okay, so we're going with steel. You can see it goes both directions, and I think we took 240 for that. That'll give us enough for the flange. So here we've met our first flange. If we look at the top, zoom in here, you see how we have no joins. So it's a good idea at this stage to actually test this body. Just check we have only one body. So we're going to test, create a flat pattern. And we need a flat face. So we'll go around to the front and we pick this flat face. And we'll try it. And we should get a rectangle. So that means our sketch is providing good enough raw material for the flat pattern surface to actually be displayed, be generated. But obviously we're not going to cut a rectangular piece of leather, so we're just testing that our technique is correct so far. So I'm going to go to the flat pattern, right click on it and delete. We'll come back to it. Looking at that flange, it looks a little bit large to me, so I'm just going to go back and check how big I actually made it. I think all I need is 120. That looks more like what I would have expected. Apologies for that, but it just shows you if you want to change a parameter on the flange, you just go back here, right click, edit your feature, and you get the dialog box back. Now we're going to cut this body into 3 bodies, and we're going to use the YZ plane. To do that. The reason we're doing that is because the YZ plane will give us the ability to create lines across that flat face, and we'll use those lines to actually split the body. So you can do this in sheet metal or in solid. So now we just draw a line, put it anywhere. Length doesn't matter. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create another line, but I'm going to make this one a construction line. I'm going to draw it through the origin. Length is irrelevant. And now I'm going to, dimension. We're going to set that at 25 mil from the origin. And we're going to create mirror. The object is the line. Mirror line is the construction line. And we get a mirror line suddenly appears. That's okay. Now, the beauty of using the mirror is that if I change this, let's say to 35, the other line changes its position as well. So let's go back to 25 for a moment, and we'll finish the sketch. Now what we have to do is generate 2 planes at angles to serve as cutting planes or splitting planes for the leather object, and we're going to construct plane at angle on the first line, and let's see what we get. 16.5. Lovely. And construct plane at angle, and let's say it's minus 16.5. Let's take a look at the front. see what we got. That looks good. These are two planes, and they're going to cut the leather body into 3 parts. Okay, so we're going to modify. Oh, we can't do it in sheet metal. We have to go to solid. Modify. Split body. Body to split. The full leather. Splitting tool. You can see this red circle showing you where the object is going to be, the body is going to be split, and we will go okay. So now over here we have 2 bodies. Body 1, what's left of the large body, and body 2. We don't want to see that. We can hide that. And now we modify split body. Pick the body to split. Splitting tool. Okay. Now we have 3 bodies. Go to the front for a view. Body 1. We don't want to see that. And look what we have. We can hide the construction planes, and we can hide the sketches. We can hide that. Oh, let's have a look at that. Go up here and we have a look, and you can see we have good separation between the 2 pieces of leather at the hinge end. So now I'm going to bring the flat pieces around where we can see them. I'm particularly interested in this chap, because I'm going to go back now to sheet metal and use create flat pattern. And the first thing it'll ask me for is a stationary face, which has to be flat. So that's all good. Now this is the point at which any error we've made will result in a failed flat pattern. Et voila. So that's the flat pattern we're going to actually use. Now what we actually need for our cutting template is a printout. So we'll save our work and we will create new drawing from design. Now we'll actually need the A1 because we need it to be use A1 for printing so that we can have a 1-to-1 scale on the final print. Okay, we want it to be 1-to-1. So that's okay. We'll turn it now, we'll rotate it if that's the way it wants to come out. So we will use the rotate. So we've one selected, transform. And as you go through the horizontal, you'll find that it'll lock in position. hit escape. So we'll do it again. We hit OK. Move it where we want it to be. Get rid of all the clutter that comes with the templates. Now you can put in a note, and I'm going to set the height of this to be, let's say, 7 mil. Call it doesn't work, we'll try a different way. We'll go with that, and we write in scale 1:1. Oh yeah, that's now if you like you can put in dimensions, but the principal object of this is to print it out. You have a 1:1 template and you draw that onto something physically more durable than the sheet of paper, and then cut out that template. But let's just put in some dimensions. You can see here how you have 2 lines just there. So we'll go from that outside one to the outside one here. See what we have. 48.98. 48.26. How long is this? And what's the full length of the drawing? And it's very hard to read that, so we'll go to document settings, text type group, up pops the dialog, and we will go with large. OK, and it gets visible. When you print this out, it will be completely legible. So where does that leave us? It leaves us that that's the actual size of the leather that will be on the bellows when the bellows is actually built. So it'd be a good idea to put maybe a centimeter of margin into the template so that we will be sure that when we cut the leather, it will be adequate to cover the full bellows. So let's save that. That'll be fine. And we'll go back to the design. Now, where should we go to add a centimeter to each flank of the leather? We'll finish the flat pattern first of all and go back to the design. And it was the distance between that line and that line that set the size of the total leather sheet. So we'll go back to that. We did it after the flange. We'll edit the sketch and we'll change 25 to 30. Both lines moved. Finish sketch. We will now save that. And we will go back to the drawing. This is propagating the change through the drawing. So we'd expect that to approach 70. So update the drawing. Okay, didn't like that. We'll delete that. And we will only went to 58.26. Okay, we'll have a look at that. The reason for that is we just changed the separation to 30, so that gives us a 5mm margin. So we'll go back to the same sketch now. Edit sketch and make it 35. Save our work. And now we go back to the drawing. Update the drawing. There we have it, approaching 70. Okay, so to print this off, you probably won't have an A1 printer immediately to hand, but you usually get them in school supplies and stationery stores where they'll print one off for you. But for that, you will need to export it as a PDF. So take all sheets. You can open the PDF if you like. Make sure it works. Save it. And there it is. You take that PDF down to your local printer. Okay, I think that does us for today. Thank you for now, and we'll see you on session 4.